What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for April 6th, 2026. 4.7 is in its second week now, and the hotfixes are slowly rolling in. We had a tech preview for transport this weekend, and yeah, we possibly got a maybe sneak peek at the whole B, and yeah, all that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, where I always enjoy seeing you guys over there. I, again, have no sponsors this week, so feel free to support in any way you like. The best ways are simply just enjoying the video from start to finish, like, comment, things like that. And if you are new here and you end up really liking what I threw together, just consider subscribing. And with that, let's get into some of those patch notes. So we start out with Hotfix Central, and throughout the week, we only had one hotfix, and it was on Wednesday, and it fixed some minor things, really. They fixed a small issue with a slot missing in the inventory sometimes, a minor QV station issue with maps and labels not working occasionally, and then a really annoying one with Hathor, where the laser kept firing inside the cave and outside it after it was complete. It was really weird to deal with, as you can see here, and yeah, they tried to fix those clay-looking characters in the comms calls, or heroes, or whatever they call them. For Thursday, we had a tech preview. This is a relatively small update in terms of things to talk about, but it's very big, I think, in terms of quality of life impact, potentially at least. They added the new transport system to a number of locations, more than just Area 18, but I just hung around Area 18 because that seemed to be the main area they wanted us to test. The big thing in the notes here for me was the bits in the middle of this post. Elevator panels are now unique for each player in them, so I see my own panel, you see your own panel. You no longer see hangars that you're not allowed to go to because of the elevator, was someone else's. What I didn't get to test, though, is if we're all in the elevator at the same time, am I able to just enter yours? Probably not. Leave a comment down below and let me know, because I got on really late and nobody was on when I was on. There was like 3 people on the server. Your selection also queues up with other players, like I just mentioned. So it's like being in a real elevator where somebody else pressed all the buttons and then you press yours. The difference here is it doesn't go in order of floor. It goes in order in which you pressed. So that person would go to all the spots they wanted to first, and then you would go to yours. But you would not really see what buttons they pressed in the test, but they do want to, add to that in the future. There's also a hold door button. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this was working or not, because the door didn't stay open for very long, so I couldn't really tell if it was working as intended. But how did it go for me? Started off pretty rough, actually, with the elevator not showing up in my hangar where I spawned. I had to run across to the other side, and then eventually, when I got out and did the transport loop and everything was totally fine there was some weird bug where if you sat down, you would black out. Everyone was obsessed with that one. But when I came back to my hangar to finish the loop, when I tried to go back out again, the elevators didn't show up. Now, I was told by a dev who works on this that this was actually a good thing, because if we look at what's not in the patch, it was the self-repair aspects that will be my issue will be caught by that, and I will not experience that once this is in. They purposefully didn't include it to help find more issues, because the self-repair thing would obviously always be resetting everything, and then when you had longer-term issues show up, they wouldn't know where to find them, right? So that was kind of the point of the test. That's all we had for the patch this week. Very much looking forward to that 2-week cycle that we've been getting, because yeah, I'm getting bored of mining all the time. I need a little something else to do. With that, let's get to the monthly report, where most of the content is this week. All right, this was probably the juiciest, or I guess largest. Juicy would mean that it was like lots of awesome information. Monthly report that we've had for the entire year so far. Tons of stuff, but mostly minor things and a lot of rehashing what we already know. Let's start out with AI features and tech. As per usual, not a lot here, but the Apex Valakar will eventually be exciting. And contrary to last month, and why I feel this was news, is The creature will no longer be able to go anywhere on the planets that it lives on. So I think like Monox and Daymar, it will now be limited to its arena, as they say, which implies that basically this is no longer a sandbox experience that can just happen to you at any time based on maybe certain criteria, but possibly another theme park location again. Oof, that one hurts. Animation, not a huge deal either, but I do feel it's worth bringing up because it implies in 4.8 we'll have a new mission, potentially new characters, 2 of them, and this feels to me like potentially a new event that is coming in 4.8 at some point. Ship art, this is a big one, so hold on, strap in. Of course, we got to start in the UK where the ships are made. The first ship on the list was the Raylan, and that is prepping for great box review. We do get a little image, kind of a part of it here, which is cool. The whole B, which we'll talk about in the video updates section a bit more, is finalizing, while the Ironclad is progressing through its final phases as well. And we get a nice look from, I think, like the main area that looks down into the cargo hold and the back of the cargo hold. I think here, the RSI Galaxy is getting love again after a bit of a break. Remember, this is the IAE main highlight ship this year. A ton of unannounced vehicles are on the list, and that's because Invictus is coming up in May. So we'll see a lot of unannounced in this section throughout the next little while. And we move on to North America, where the only real mention of a ship here is the Kraken, which passed its white box review, and we get a little image showing that it is certainly the largest ship that will be flyable when it releases. But remember, this is a 2027 release, so don't get overly excited about seeing this anytime soon. Core gameplay is next. I am skipping a majority of this because most of it was stuff they did way back in 4.7, which we know all about already. The refueling mechanic work was detailed a bit here, and the big change is that the Starfarer and whatever new ship that they're going to be selling to us will be able to dock to ships itself, where previously it was only the other way around. Now it's going to be interchangeable, and soon when a ship is full, it will just automatically undock. So that's kind of a nice quality of life thing. Drake command module work continues to make sure it acts correctly. I imagine these two things helped each other. More mention of the transport rework. This was posted before the test that we had, so it was a little more vague, a little less detail. The mission system is being integrated with Starchitect work. So that means that the mission team doesn't have to create 3,000 different missions for all the locations that some type of mission could be at. Ship hangar servicing, which is where you can refuel, repair, and rearm inside some of the larger ships in the game, had its first playable experience internally, and they seem to have liked how it went. After all this, the core gameplay teams are then going to move on to social features, which we saw at CitizenCon 2024. I would not get overly excited about this because we don't know, is it just going to be chat, you know, or is it going to be like org features? It's probably just going to be chat to start, right? Creature content, nothing super exciting to share here. I am simply doing it because they created a new team, and we might see this in the monthly reports a little bit more often. We heard this was kind of a thing from SCL with Zach Priest saying that he doesn't work on the creature team anymore, and they made their own team. So that's a thing to look out for in the future. Economy, we get another banger from these guys, and right off the top, 4.8 confirms a few new systems with more crafted items, commodity trading, and I just feel like this is going to be a complete disaster. I don't feel like they've nailed commodity trading at all just yet. And item recovery tier 1 potentially. This could solve a lot of the problems that I'm experiencing, at least in the current live build. We're just mining endlessly, looking for the highest grade stuff, where hopefully tier 1 item recovery makes it so low and mid-grade stuff is worth crafting as well. They feel generous at the moment about breaker stations in terms of what they're providing to players. I don't think we as players feel that way because of the current state of the game. And I think the system will make sense one day, but you know, I think to myself and most players just don't feel like mining 700 quality or below materials right now. And in the last paragraph, they mention a move away from the loop where we mainly sell to NPCs and move to a player-centric economy. This sort of implies that there, you know, you need a way to trade between players then, right? And yeah, so the weirdest sentence though was the last one. They want to prioritize material acquisition and not UEC. To me, this makes zero sense because you obviously acquire material to craft things to sell to people when you're a crafter, so that's about UEC. But it also feels a lot like my New World experience, where you're playing an MMO, but you're an individual and you need all the materials yourself to craft your own gear instead of buying crafted gear from other players on the market. That was not a thing in that MMO. It's gonna be a real challenge for these devs to figure this out, because they are not building the game in a way that, at the moment at least, benefits working together. Everybody is kind of building armor for themselves. We might be trading stuff back and forth a little bit to fill in gaps, but that's it. Then moving on to level design, I'm just mentioning this section because they mentioned tactical strike groups and Siege of Orison. 2 bits of content I just want to see out the door. I don't particularly care about them very much, but they should be instanced. So I want to see what instancing feels like and finally figure out what this game might feel like in the long term. Online tech, I just felt like I had to include this because they talk about the next step of server meshing, which was a bit of internal testing that went on and resolving some bugs and work on their new territory manager. Tech art and animation was a much larger section, but there was only 2 paragraphs that I cut out that made any sense to me, and that is that they were working on the super heavy combat armor that was mentioned a few weeks ago on SCL, and a flaming torch animation. Why would I have a flaming torch in the future? I have no idea, so certainly keeping an eye out on that one because there might be something interesting there. Whew, that was a lot. Let's move into a very April Fool's video update section. All right, I don't know what they're going to name the proper Behind the Ships for the Hull B, but this was named Behind the Ships Hull B Edition. But this was the April Fool's Behind the Ships Hull B Edition. And yeah, so this is obviously an April Fool's joke this year, and they got me pretty good. Well, it wasn't obvious because I fell for it initially. And I just was really hyped to see the Hull B. It's one of my most exciting ships. And I think we did possibly see it in this first clip.
So we're pleased to announce the Hull B. So when we were designing the Hull B, like most other ships, we looked to the real world for inspiration, and I think the actual B itself was a pretty compelling argument. They can carry a huge amount of cargo on their backs.
What we decided to do is really extend the cargo grids out. They make them super accessible for the players. Not overly complicated at all with the whole cargo grid rotating.
My favourite thing about the Hull B is its little antennas. Don't know what they do, they're just cool things. The wings work surprisingly well with physics, and they actually give a little bit of uplift as well, just from the sheer forces involved from moving them around. Unfortunately, it does come at a little bit of cost over the network, so hopefully people won't bring too many of these together in the same area.
So minus the wings, the antennas, and the landing gear, I honestly believe that this is the real Hull B. How sleek it looks and everything, it looks like time was put into it. I also think the way the ship was loading in the clip is possibly a really nice way to do it, where it, you load the bottom up and then it flips. But then they also mentioned that was so overcomplicated. I don't know, but I think we might have saw the real thing for the most part here. What we also saw was a bunch of goofy April Fool's versions of the ship, which was fun and stupid, and that's the point. But I can't wait for next week to see more of the ship. Let's be real here. And then the last clip was another version of the ship that I think we definitely saw in the video.
Next up is the Hull O, which stands for 404, and is a collaboration with Origin on their 404 project. You can't see it, because it's invisible.
So yeah, we obviously didn't really see the ship, but the orientation of the cargo and the engines, I think that was also the real Hull B. It looks like it makes sense and it looks good. I think we'll be able to load the ship fairly easily. And again, if we go back to the first clip, you see potentially an external tractor beam to make that even easier. And again, I cannot wait for next week to actually get the details of the internals and everything about the ship. That was video updates. Let's move on to the shortest other updates section I think we've ever had. All right, so we have a sneak peek, and that is the only thing we have in the other updates section. And after everything you saw today, you know what this is. This is the actual hull B and its underside. Nothing here is giving any indication that what we saw on Behind the Ships was real or fake. It's just a totally different angle of things that we haven't really seen. Like, you can't see the horizontal loading or anything that would indicate what we saw was real, right? Probably more of a just, hey, just remember, guys, next week, we're actually going to show you the real thing. And again, I cannot wait. This will be a very used ship for me. It might be one of my mains. And with that, just how are you guys enjoying 4.7? I am both playing more and enjoying it, but also hating my life while playing it, because I do feel like you need to find high quality ore in order for it to make sense and be worth it, even though you don't. It's just, again, that tier 0 issue that I mentioned earlier. I want to see what Star Citizen feels like without it. And I don't want to make any real judgments about mining or cargo or crafting or anything that we're doing right now with tier 0 item recovery existing. It doesn't need to be there. Again, it's frustrating, like not being able to trade easily with players and lots of issues with not being able to split the good ore that you do have to share with others and stuff. So a lot that needs to happen here. Very much looking forward to that 2-week cycle for a bit new content, a little bit of refreshing, a new ship, new missions to grind for new blueprints. So yeah, very much interested in seeing what fixes come in too. So if you haven't yet, get subscribed for Week in Review, because we will cover all of that next week. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button, comment down below on anything that we discussed today. As always, all of the sources for today's show are linked in the description. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will catch you all next week.